Welcome to the Political Pour Up Podcast.
Grab a drink, pull up a chair.
Grab a drink.
This is the political pour up.
Because we don't need a drink for this.
Hello, and welcome to the Political Pour Up Podcast. I'm Sue.
I'm Jazz.
And I'm Jen. And we are three friends who love to talk about politics. And we like to have a drink while we do it.
Yes,
Girls.
Yeah, because you need a drink with these.
It's a libation necessary week, is all I'm going to say.
It always is. It's been like that since
It's been like this
Since I've started adulting is when I could think back to when that might have been a thing.
Yeah.
Before then, you just had other people buy it for you. Or just go to the liquor store in Atlanta and they just sell it to you.
But that was inconvenient. Yeah. Well,
Love it, though.
This is our second episode.
Yeah.
Look at
Yes.
that. Podcasting, it's cool. I didn't realize how much work went into this shit. Like, no wonder people like have like whole companies.
That's why they had one episode and said, forget it.
Well, that part. And then you get ads and like all the production behind it. Like, you could really make some money, but it was a lot.
Yeah. Well, kudos to you. We appreciate you, sir.
Yeah, doing your due diligence to research what we're getting ourselves into. But at least until then, we get to share our opinions, get some engagement with our community,
Yes.
those outside of our community, and hopefully get a chance to spark some necessary conversation.
Yeah. So thank you for our listeners that listened to the first episode. We appreciate the feedback, all the love and support. I almost got Siri.
Yeah, it costs you nothing to put on the notification.
Oh,
That's
how
all
do
I'm
you
gonna
do
say.
that? I'm not even notified.
Oh, I signed up.
Post a new
Oh yes, ma'am. It's one. It took me long enough because we all know that I am not the most tech savvy person. But literally, if you're on Apple Podcasts, you can go up near the top, sign up for the little notifications, or know when we are releasing a new episode. And with me being as forgetful as I am, I need all the reminders I can get. So I'm glad to pass that along to everyone else.
The more you know.
Yeah,
Wow.
I'm telling you, I love me some reading
So how
Rainbow.
was y'all's week? I mean,
It's the kids at home, so.
well,
It was chaotic.
well, that's why we're drinking whiskey today. Jasmine came through with this she's a bartender in her.
I mean,
Her mind.
I've shined my best
A
at baking and
craftsman.
and cooking.
Of the week.
Yes. Thank you. I figured I'd go with something with a little bit of a fall feel since we're kind of getting into October. Although I really just wasn't feeling the apple and it's a bit warm where we are. So we kept it with a cool drink. A base made with cranberry, some orange, a hint of lime, and some cinnamon. We also have Uncle Nearest whiskey in there representing our Black-owned brands as well as whiskey for those of us who are enthusiasts. And of course, you know, a little ginger beer floater because I'm spicy like that. And because I can't help myself, I decided to go ahead and dehydrate the fruit to go ahead and make a little garnish.
Wait a minute. You did that
Yeah.
yourself?
I sure did.
She did.
I dehydrated fruit for 6 hours,
Why is
okay?
this taking so long?
6 hours. 6 hours of dehydrating fruit. Nobody told me it would take 6 hours.
You know you can sell that. Do you know how much they sell dehydrated like garnishes? for?
Wait until
In, like,
I meant to tell you I'm gonna put it up on my Etsy page. I'm just joking.
no,
No,
I'm
but
dead
seriously.
serious. It's a lot.
Yeah, and I did it. I dehydrated in the oven and the air fryer. So yeah, I was double dehydrating last night. Double
I don't know
D.
that Jasmine is a master chef and a baker.
Yes.
I do my best shining in the baking.
It's a deliciously refreshing
Yes,
fall cocktail because I'm all for fall. It's spooky season. All right, well let's get into it. Let's all take a collective sip of this. What are we calling this cocktail?
You know, I mean, technically, I guess it's a cranberry, orange, cinnamon kind of a Kentucky Mule. But personally, since we are talking about reproductive rights today, and that'll be our focus, I mean, we'll call it the Plan C because it's cranberry.
Okay, I like that.
I like Plan C. And it's got mad vitamin C in here. I already done dehydrated this fruit. I done zested an orange in here. I done squeezed the lime. This has got
Your
antioxidants.
immune system.
Yes. You know, the whiskey to open it up. You got the cinnamon for the goodness, and then the citrus and the cranberry. I'm trying to heal us
We need some.
with our alcohol. For those who like tart things, this is a tart thing.
Getting over clothes.
And we'll go ahead and include the recipe for you as well. And it's actually pretty good if you want, I mean, outside the ginger beer, you can up the ginger and serve it warm too, which is actually pretty good.
Yes, I feel like this would be really good warm.
Yeah, no ginger beer, just a little extra ginger in the making of the syrup, and then boom, you're
I
good.
can hear them fighting a cold.
I think we all are. I think it's just what fall has up. Either you're fighting a cold or you're fighting allergies. It's one of the two things.
Well, Jazz, let's get into our sip and scroll. What's going on the gram, on whatever other social media outlets you subscribe
Foolishness.
to? Oh, yeah.
And this week's foolishness on the internet, I think the first thing that kind of jumped out to me this week was the unfortunate situation that Haitians are in Springfield and outside of Springfield are going through as being this cycle's most recently targeted group of immigrants or people, which was interesting to me was at, I guess, a rally of the Agent Orange. He was either asked a question or just volunteered it and decided to say that he believed that he would revoke the legal status of Haitian immigrants, which I won't just call migrants because they didn't just move here for work. A lot of those people are refugees, and a lot of people have been here for an extended amount of time, not to mention they also showed up to a place that they were invited to because their town was going to hell.
Period. They saved it.
And they've saved it. But we've all been, we've all seen all the kind of vitriol going around about it. And even though it was made up by a woman who I don't think should deserve no blame, I think it says something when you can't find your cat in your own house and your animal don't want to be around you. And the first thing you think is to accuse some random people who live near you who don't have nothing to do with you about eating your animal. It might say more about you than people that live near you.
It does.
But
It was in the basement.
yeah, I mean, maybe your cat just ain't like you.
Hiding from you.
Maybe your animal just didn't like you. And maybe that's okay. Somebody saved the cats from her. But I do think it was quite appalling to hear him say that he would go and remove people's actual status in this country and deport them to wherever. I don't know if he knows that they go to Haiti or Venezuela now because we had a whole thing with that a couple of weeks ago. They're trying to deport people to other people's countries. But what really disturbed me about it is, like I've said before, it's giving Nazi Germany. It's giving 1930s. It's giving, we think these people, we're going to use them as a scapegoat and we're going to come in and remove their status and then forcibly move them from where they are. On top of all of the other issues that people are having to deal with mom threats, even one gentleman in Springfield, I did catch a story about that, which I wish would have gotten a little more news. He and his son were actually in his garage, and a random white person walked up with a gun and threatened them while they were on their property in their garage. So it's not just words that are being said or threats from a person that you can't see. There are people actually walking up to people and terrorizing them, because that's tantamount to what that is. Yeah. So I did want to give a little bit of notice to that. Also, our other bleach blonde confused person was back in the news this week. Every time you say, she took a step to try to stand up at one point, which I thought was very rare, but a broken clock could be right 2 times a day. So I was happy that she said something against crazy Laura Loomer weeks ago, but we only knew it was a short amount of time before she get back to her regular stuff. Right. And most recently, she's back on her, they, quote unquote, are controlling the weather. Before, it was Jewish space lasers. This time, I'm not sure if it's just Democrats or if it's Jewish Democrats or if it's people of color or just Democrats in general, to specifically alter weather to damage red states, which is a special kind of stupid that happens to exist. So, I'm just saying, I guess weather wasn't a thing that existed before the last, 8 years where they had these space lasers that these people came up with.
No, I was just, every time she talks, I'm like, what district is this?
You know what? Every time I see people like her talk, it reminds me more and more of the need for money to go to education, which is that
They want to defund it.
They want to defund it so people will vote for people like Marjorie Taylor Greene. I just know that people with good common sense or just maybe a little more access to learning about different things wouldn't be as narrow-minded and as hateful as she is, or say things that just have no basis in anything logical or common sense, or even just in the realm of possibilities is where she does not reside.
It just interests me. I'm like, where did these people come from? Right? Like, where, let's, I need to know.
A place that's probably 47th in the United States for education.
Yes. Well, it's the Northwest Georgia, the 14th district, which is Dalton and Rome. So
I am just shocked that she is in her 40s. She looks like she could be my grandmother.
It's hilarious. Oh, well, because she's
aging like a platanos.
Yeah. So okay. All right. Next.
Overripe in 7 days. All right. So now that we've gotten on from our delusional people on the other side, I'm going to let you go ahead and take over the next one for the Lincoln Project.
Oh, you didn't see that video?
Oh, I did. Oh, I did. The Be a Man and Vote for a Woman.
And Wendell Pierce, I mean, we all remember him from some of our childhood classics. My favorite role for him is Waiting to Exhale.
Oh, yeah. He's a great
Yeah.
actor, though.
Oh, he's an amazing actor. And the fact that he is doing this now, I don't know if y'all remember this a couple of, I think, months ago. He had an issue and he was trying to buy some property or a house, and he was like racially discriminated against. And then he went public with like his experience was like, you know, how is this still happening?
Yeah.
And in the final message of that video, you gotta watch it. We'll link it. Be a man, vote for a woman. Like,
Yeah. I mean, I think it needs to be said.
well done.
It needs to be said.
Yeah.
I won't say there's a lot, but there are some men that I've had exchanges with that are people that I've known, whether I met them in elementary school or later in life, you know, peaceful exchanges, but just an exchange of ideas and trying to figure out why they're so adamant to be anti-Kamala for whatever reason and the things that they pull up. And a lot of times they'll reference things that are not facts. And I often, when I run into those things, I say to them what I say when it comes to people talking about votes not being important. It doesn't matter about your vote because this is going to happen anyway. Or people like to say stuff like, oh, it's just the two different sides of the same evil. It's really not. And I think, unfortunately, when it comes to those types of things, it's just that, well, I'm not going to say they don't pay attention, but I think that they run with things that they hear sometimes, and they don't bother doing the research about where those things come from. And a lot of times those things are actually working against them, and they're going out and parroting them for free and doing the work of the people that are working against you, which I really don't agree with. You know what I mean? Like, we can strive for better, but we're not going to harp on that. We should all do our parts to engage people, have peaceful conversations, share information. It's not about yelling at each other. Sometimes it's just about getting things across and really asking people why they feel the way that they feel. The other thing that kind of bothered me, again, is the misinformation that we have going around about a lot of things. Most recently, Hurricane Helene. It really grinds my gears because I do have family that is from one of the hardest hit states there, and they are in rural areas, and they will also be needing FEMA relief. I also have one of my oldest friends who works for FEMA dealing with disaster relief. So to see the lies that have been going around being perpetuated about people not getting funding, FEMA running out of funding, which is totally not true. Anytime a government agency has to put up and dedicate their resources to putting up an entire page or website to counteract the lies that another party is telling is absolutely ridiculous. Furthermore, what we do know is that, as far as I can tell, from all the research I've done, there's only really been one president in recent history who has actually taken FEMA funds and disaster funds and rerouted them to the border. And that was Senor Trump, Mr. I like my tacos from Taco Bell. So, I mean, I do want people to not really dial into that. FEMA is not out of money. FEMA is not giving people $750. Also, the money that is delegated to dealing with immigration or migrants does not come out of FEMA's budget. So that needs to be said so we can kind of nip that in the bud, because as we've seen since the first running back in 2016, every day it's pick a particular minority group and make them the scapegoat. Whether it be Black people, Latino people, Haitians, Jews, LGBTQ. This is why I'm saying this is very much so giving 1930 Germany. So everybody pay attention. Let's not try to appease the crazy person. Well, and then they got rid of him, and then somebody brought him back in to make him feel better because he was complaining about not being in office. And then he ran all of them out of office. But we will include some links to some documentaries about... Well, his first wife said, I think in Vanity Fair in the 80s, that he slept with a copy of
Mein Kampf.
Mein Kampf in his nightstand and read it all the time. We can tell by what he does, who he models himself after. And also by the things that were reported as fact about his family and where he comes from. I'm not surprised. The last thing I wanted to end off with social media this week would be the reckoning that some of you all still don't realize is coming. Trump only looks out for Trump. So for the people who work their whole careers in certain arenas, they are now at the place where they are losing their jobs. And not only are they losing their jobs, they are losing their freedom. Most recently is Tina Peters.
Who is Tina Peters?
Tina Peters is now going to be the newest prisoner for the next 9 years. Okay, that's her. Tina Peters is going to be telling them that she needs a kosher diet so she can try to get a better meal while she's in there. Okay, that's who Tina Peters is. She's about to lose her freedom, actually. As she rightfully should have, though. Tina Peters is a former Mesa County, which is in Colorado, election official. She had been found guilty of 4 felonies and was sentenced to 9 years in prison, which must be served. And her 4 felony counts, the judge was so egregious at what she did that she is serving the sentences consecutively, which is what totals up those 9 years, not concurrently, like other things, a lot of other cases. But she very much so deserves it for trying to get rid of people's votes, lying and saying that the election was stolen, and literally just trying to overturn the results of people who went in and voted. So people really need to pay a lot of attention to this. As we see, there are people who were, committing a coup who are locked up, who are still there. There have been election officials. There have been people who have been removed from their job. There are people that are losing their freedom. It's really not worth it to be behind one man who is clearly a criminal and a crook. He might be running so he can get out of jail. But what we've seen is that he will stick the mob on you the moment that he feels like it. So maybe don't give up your freedom and all the things that you've worked for thus far. I'd like to wrap up my social media post for the week with Plies, because I love me some Plies, and I feel like he's doing work. He is an unpaid surrogate for the Democratic Party, and he is doing the work, and I am here for it. And as a person who has family from Jacksonville, Florida, I'm loving it, Florida boy. So you keep doing what you're doing. But this week he put out one that said FEMA had to put out a statement to tell America Trump is lying about Biden Harris taking money from FEMA and using it on immigrants. Springfield had to put out a statement to tell America Trump was lying about the Haitians. Every day it's a different lie. He is the effing devil. And that brings me back to my first point. He has literally, since the time he's come out, picked a different person from a minority group or a different minority group as a whole to attack. And ever since he saw that episode of Simpsons, he said, I'm going to do that one day. I'm going to do it. I'm going to do it. And we've been living in the worst episode of South Park since. I would like to get my life back. I'm tired of seeing all these light bulb head people with nothing going on, just running around talking stuff. Even the people from The Simpsons said they don't be knowing stuff, but they tired. They don't want none of this. So that's kind of where I wanted to wrap up the socials for the week, and that'll kind of lead us right into our headline hangover.
Well, yeah, because
with our good sis.
We're going to start out with, it's so devastating what we're seeing in some of the hardest hit areas like Hurricane Helene, and reporting is that it's like the worst hurricane damage and death toll since Katrina, and possible it may surpass.
It's still going up.
And I remember we were in college when Katrina happened, and that period of time for the whole South is just devastating.
Had friends on the way down to school and couldn't get there instead of stopping in Atlanta.
Came to the AEC during that time to study. So our hearts and our prayers all go out to those who have been impacted, those who have lost loved ones, lost their homes. Climate change is affecting none of us are controlling the weather, but it is being impacted by the way that
we are treating the environment.
So
also, really quick before you move on, Florida people, now is your time to vote out people like Rick Scott, people who actually outlawed the words climate change being used when he was in office, who for whatever reason is now back in a lower office. I think you all need to get rid of aliens once and for all. Okay? He very much so gives, what was Jim Carrey's character on Living Color? Yeah.
Okay.
The Fire Marshal Bill is giving Fire Marshal Bill. No hair, no eyebrows, no nothing.
No, but that was one of the major things that started off the week. Aside from, obviously, the debate was dangerous, just flat out lies about the hurricane relief.
Yeah.
And, so Trump is getting in front of podiums. I just wish he would not be allowed in front of a mic at all.
I wish they wouldn't report everything that comes out of his mouth, like his breath. It's like the teacher letting the kid shoot his glass.
Anytime FEMA has to create a fact-checking website so that people know that there are funds available that they desperately need, it's just, I don't understand how anyone could ever think about reelecting this man. Like, to politicize a moment like this is
very much so on brand for him.
And more to your point, which was also a topic in the headlines, was just like, it's this talking point of I'm going to bring everything back to immigration because that's how I get my base riled up, and that's how I get them to come out and vote.
Exactly.
Because guess what? They're taking things from you and they're giving it to the immigrants, which is a flat out
Which is racist.
in and of itself. And also, if we want to talk about how presidents have handled disaster relief, he had one of the worst records with handling disaster relief.
Well,
To be convinced in California with the wildfire.
anytime somebody has to show out a map and point to it and say, no, look, right here. No, look, they voted for you. These people in this bubble for you not to exact retribution for a natural disaster against people's wild.
It's disgusting, and it makes me think about what Kamala said, which is she never asked the victim, "Are you a Republican or a Democrat?" Because in moments like this, people need help. We're talking about people can't find their loved ones. People don't have water. People don't have food. They don't have shelter. Winter is coming. People don't have clothes. And you're busy politicizing something because Trump only cares about Trump.
Yeah, I was like, he don't care if they're Republicans or Democrats because he don't know which one he is. He just know that he wants power. So whoever is a sycophant to him, they don't have to like the Republican Party. If they love Trump, he's willing to go above and beyond to do things for you.
Yes, and his end goal is I will politicize any moment if it means that it'll help me get reelected. And these moments like this are beyond party. This is something that's affecting everyone. And for a presidential candidate to scare people out of or use it to intimidate or use it to make people angry and to spur this hate against our immigrant community and things like that, it's just yet another telltale sign that he does not deserve to be in any elected office. And they had to tell people, like, if you need, we have services, like, please apply. Like, don't let this actually deterring people from applying, because they hear this and they say, oh, there's no money, I can't get help, and you can.
I mean, for people who are only getting a limited amount of news, maybe don't, because of the disaster that's happening, maybe don't fill up the little bit of access that they're able to get information in and out with BS that is not helpful to them. Also, while you were saying that, one thing I saw earlier this week, and they were actually referencing the hurricane at the time, but they were just saying that Trump has always been an agent of chaos. And so all that he ever does is in times, even when people are already dealing with a lot, is he goes in and he sows chaos any way in which he can in order to go ahead and have people distracted by that so they can go and enact other things that are way worse. I do want people to, I get it. You should be paying attention to who's running, but we can't just keep giving we can't have people following around somebody who's just out here saying chaotic things in order to sow chaos, to get people distracted so they can go ahead and implement all these other non-attractive things that nobody wants.
So one thing, I know you're going to talk about this in a second, just the villainization of immigrants. We're going to talk about the debate. There was a vice presidential debate on this past Tuesday.
Hopefully you all watched it.
We were all tuned in, but one of the most appalling, there were so many.
There were so many lines.
There's so many lines, but one real jaw dropper for me was when J.D. Vance attributed the housing crisis to immigrants, saying that we can't buy houses, Americans can't buy houses because they're being taken by immigrants. And I've never heard such like that. Doesn't even make a lot of sense. It doesn't. You're saying to me that a white couple who works in the federal government in Alexandria, Virginia, with $100,000 a year income is getting out there for a duplex in Fairfax by someone who just came here to this country. And
let's take it to the basics of the basics.
Please.
It's real hard for people to get loans. How you gonna get a loan without a credit history or without a social security number, without it? I'm just saying, for all the people that have come to this country, maybe not through the traditional immigration system, but who have come here, who may be considered undocumented immigrants, I can assure you none of them are making any type of money that would allow them to buy a house as soon as they came here, or even even after a few years. So, I just think that that's just asinine.
Speaking about the debate, wow. There was so much with the debate.
It was less eyeliner than I thought it would be.
Right. I hated that look he kept making to the camera. That was just so annoying. But
It's called a snake. That's all I saw on the internet this week was that people called him. They were saying it was very much so giving used car salesman, snake oil salesman.
Snake oil salesman is all I could think about throughout the whole debate. I mean,
That's the whole party.
Gaslighting is just.
I'm surprised the room ain't blow up.
Have an entire episode to address the lies, but one of the biggest ones that stood out to me was when he said, "It's really rich for Democrats to say that Trump is a unique threat to democracy when he peacefully left office."
I guess that's for all the people that weren't around on January
It
6th.
was a whole other effing coup.
And then when asked, did Trump win the election or did Trump lose the election in 2020?
He could not just flat out say no.
Well,
That was a damning non-answer.
And although have never been a Mike Pence fan, at least one good point, which I'm glad, because we all knew J.D. Vance was very polished at debating. Like, we knew he was going to get up there and make himself sound.
That's that Yale omelet.
Yeah, he's articulate. I expect that.
I don't know if he's that polished or if he just lies a lot and was told that nobody would correct his lies. Also, he just had more practice recently.
But apparently Minnesota Nice, as they call it, did play well because he gained like 13 or up to 15 points of popularity, I think, after the debate. Although I was kind of like,
Well, I mean, you could be Minnesota Nice.
screaming because I'm like, he's lying.
Just-
I'm texting y'all.
Yeah.
It's insane. But those were just some of the things that stuck out to me. But I was glad that he honed in on the fact that if you elect these two guys, there's no check. Like, at least we can thank Pence for nothing else than being like, no, I'm going to certify this election. You are not going to steal this election.
JD is only there because he explicitly said while they were on the lookout for who might be a VP. At first I really thought that the only reason why they had Vance is because they only had to change the first two letters.
Save some money at the print
on
shop.
all of the stuff. He's like, I could just switch out the first two letters. The name is small enough anyway, they won't even notice. That's what I originally thought. But the more I got to know about JD Vance and the more or James David or whatever name he's going with these days.
Jefferson Davis.
I've just said whoever he wants to be. The only reason he got picked is because he said specifically that he would not have certified the election, which is so dangerous. I don't know how you still have a seat in Congress, but I think what we've learned during the last maybe decade or so is that there needs to be maybe a revamping of a lot of the rules of things that people didn't think about that are clearly things that they should have thought about.
Well, I mean, why is JD here in the first place?
Exactly.
Always have to ask.
Remind yourself.
Apply for a job. It might help to ask why that job
Why
is
did the
vacant in
last
the first
person
place,
leave?
because that might tell you a lot about whether or not you would be a good fit for the role, or if the place that you work at is authoritarian.
I think JD thinks that he'll bide his time just enough to get him out of there, and he'll really do it up to the point of which we had never thought it was done before. I advise most of you, just get on Google, maybe go back and listen to a couple of his interviews in 2017, 18, 19, where he was all over the internet telling people what he wanted to do.
Yes, and I think we can get to that in another episode.
Yeah.
It's a whole nother.
Yeah, that's for your own research, but not for today.
But
Yeah.
in a lighter headline, Biden press saying White House press conferences touting the economy hours after the Labor Department's report that it was one of the highest number in new jobs reports that we've seen in I think recent history. Of course, the right immediately came out and said, "Oh, they're fudging the numbers. This just can't be. They don't want anything to be good for America. Anything's good for America. It's no, this is fake
Well,
news. This is
when the majority of America does not agree with you and you've been able to tell that for the last, 4 or 5 elections, you got to start grasping at all the straws in the air to try to make things up.
And that's also because we talk about how everybody, okay, we go to the grocery store, things are a little higher than we remember them to be. But all these things, there's a record low unemployment, but the economy is trash, it's horrible. All the people that could show up to Trump rallies, they got a job. Oh, they have jobs. They have to go to work.
Well, I'm just saying, last I heard about consumer reports, it's up high. So if people ain't got no money, they sure is buying a lot of stuff right now.
They're going on trips.
But you know what?
They're going on vacation. They buying cars.
That makes sense because he decided to sell a $100,000 watch. So when you're telling people that they can't afford eggs, I don't know how those same people have $100,000 for a watch, Or
Or even gold sneakers.
I mean, $400 for those pieces of trash, or maybe $250 for your wife's nudes. You know, whatever works.
But yeah, so
We're getting there later.
is still in recovery. We are still feeling the remnants of COVID, but
I do want to say to that point about the economy is that we have got to dispel this idea that Trump is just such a great businessman that's so good on the economy when he drove up the deficit more than I think the last 3 previous presidents combined. Even prior to COVID, that he was driving up the deficit. So I just want people to keep that in mind. And also, he filed bankruptcy, what, six times? So you go ahead and vote for that.
I mean,
I'm just saying.
I guess people
That's the definition of a great businessman.
people think they're still watching The Apprentice. I think they think they're watching The Apprentice.
Reality TV star, which I think he is, because he's.
I mean, so is Nene Leakes, but I don't want her leaving the damn country. As a matter of fact, I put more of my money on Nene than Trump, but that's just here or there.
So,
and
She got a way better blonde wig, though. That's all I'm gonna say. Way better.
all right.
all right, there was so much in the news, so we're trying to get through it, y'all. We're trying to get through it. So Jack Smith refiled his case against Trump.
Who's Jack Smith?
Special counsel, Department of Justice.
Big SC. Big Jack.
Special counsel Jack Smith. So as you all know, this goes to kind of like this whole issue of immunity and when conducting official acts.
So you meant committing crimes. You meant it.
Special counsel Jack Smith filed a new indictment since the Supreme Court's opinion giving broad immunity to the president when conducting official acts. And so basically the filing shows that Trump was unfazed about threats to Pence's life. Like basically they were saying people were letting him know they're threatening to hang him, this and that. And he said, basically, so what? And so in those text messages, he shows that he's not acting in an official capacity. He's actually acting as a...
Yeah, like a private citizen as a
private
candidate.
citizen would act. So therefore, we'll see how... It's going to be interesting to see how this plays out.
It's still evolving.
The thing that jumped out to me was that he also went back and not only documented like what was happening on January 6th in that exchange, he went back to the months before when he kept asking Pence to do this. And Pence was like, nah. And he was like, okay, there's going to be hundreds of thousands of people pissed at you. Just wait. And anytime you threaten somebody and then unleash something, I'm glad that he was able to put all of those things in there. Also, of course, as the other campaign has done, come out and say that those things are lies or non-truths, but these are taken from actual testimonies of people that were there. So, I mean, I'm excited to see what else is coming about with
Jack
everybody.
Smith trying to tell y'all he got into seats. He was like, okay, Supreme Court, you want to play those games?
That's Big Jack with a capital Jack, okay?
Why don't we end this week on the Liz Cheney rally? So my last headline is Liz Cheney came out and is now campaigning with Vice President Harris. They held a joint rally in Wisconsin where, and for those of you who don't know, Liz Cheney is a former U.S. Congresswoman from Wyoming. Her father is Dick Cheney, who was vice president 2 terms with Bush. So the Cheneys have been for a long time just aligned with just conservative Republicans.
She still is.
Correct.
They've just gone rogue, but she still is where she was.
Right. And so this is a very unique moment in history to have someone like Liz Cheney and Dick Cheney coming out and saying that they will vote for Harris. And not only just vote, she has become a surrogate. And not just for this, there are other races too in which she sees kind of like this Trumpism taking hold, and she is also endorsing a Democrat in another state. So I just wanted to highlight that because this is unique, and I think it just highlights the threat to democracy that we are in. And so I'll just end it there for the highlights of the week.
Oh, no,
For that
no,
headline.
so, no, oh my gosh. So,
Oh, no,
so Liz Cheney wasn't the only person that came out with endorsements this week. And so I want to play a game real quick. Y'all want to play?
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah,
okay.
I love a good game.
It's real quick.
Are we drinking?
It's not hard. No one take shots. No, it's okay. I'll do this real quick.
I don't think we need any shots the way my gastrointestinal reflux is set up. I can't. Hey. I grew up eating a lot of sour things. Do not judge me.
All right. Who did I? Who am I voting for?
Oh, okay. I like this game.
Okay, this one I can get the answers to much better.
Who am I voting for? Bruce Springsteen.
Come on, love. according to his most recent ad that he put out this week. Thank you, Bruce.
Yes, we love you sitting at the diner.
I know, right?
You better put that
Obama's
American
DFS,
flag
so, you know.
on and tell people to vote for Kamala.
That's
Yeah,
right.
Bruce Springsteen came out this week and voiced his endorsement for Kamala Walsh.
It was well done,
Harris
very well
Walsh
done.
ticket. So I just love saying Kamala. So I know, Madam President, please forgive me, but I just love your name. But Harris is the
or
appropriate
Madam Vice.
term for a vice president and a president. You call him by the last name, just like we always do. But
Okay, next.
Okay,
next,
I did call Barack though because I felt like he was my homie.
That's our brother.
Kid Rock.
I think we already know.
Come on, Jen.
Rock is a Trumper.
Yes, I'm saying that's
He's
the
an
name.
he's an always
got it
Trumper.
right.
Wait, I was like, he's a Trumper for sure.
Trump picked him up and said, "You can speak to all the people I don't represent and make them think that I stand for them." That's why he's there.
Irving Magic Johnson.
Come on.
First of all, it was him and Cookie.
Was it him? It was him.
Well, he said it was him and Cookie, and they've been friends for forever.
His message was very much on brand with the Wendell Pierce product video, which I really like too.
We gotta link that.
That message just has to continue
I do-
to be repeated because
I like the fact that he's a Michiganer, and they had him out in Michigan speaking to the Michigan folks.
Amber Rose.
She's a Trumper.
Idiocy. She's endorsing idiocy.
She also has a tattoo on her forehead, so we know where she stands.
I mean, I know way smarter people with tattoos on their faces than her.
Jocelyn took care of her for us.
I know she did. Thank you. Thanks.
The one time I was
Thank you all, Puerto Rican princess.
Puerto Rican president.
the Puerto Rican princess.
Mark Cuban.
We know.
We know.
And any
Kamala.
who's interested in their small business, in their LLC, y'all need to listen to Mark Cuban because he's got some.
I'm gonna tell you, he was always my favorite person from Shark Tank. Well, one of my
Right.
favorites.
Yeah.
Oh, yes.
I like saying him
I love
too.
listening to Mark Cuban.
So,
Yeah.
Martha Stewart.
Oh.
Snoop. She's like, no, I'm just
Right. Snoop for friends. For real. She is. Harris Walls.
Let me tell you.
As much as you've been.
Martha's been an independent woman since the beginning. She was out here modeling, getting all her coins on her check. She know where she stand.
So, and yeah.
And she can hold her own in the jail.
This is the last one, but it might be a little difficult.
I'm
Eric
pretty sure she knows how to roll a blunt
Eric
too.
Adams. This is our mayor in New York.
currently, yes.
Oh, who is he endorsing?
Yeah.
Kamala?
Not guilty.
Yeah. He's on the record as
he's gonna catch
supporting
that.
Harris, as endorsing Harris, but there's been talk about whether he will withdraw his endorsement and
We
you
just
know.
need him to be quiet.
Question.
I just would prefer him to be quiet in
Yeah.
this moment. Like, you don't have to show your entire ass. Like, let's just
Yeah, let's.
I mean, you the only one out of all the people that ain't resigned. Even his deputy resigned this week. Sir, I understand you wanna stand on your principles, but I'm just saying leave the rest of the people out this. We don't need to know who you voting for. You might not be able to vote after this.
Eric Adams was set up.
No, Eric. No.
So we'll leave it at that.
Also, we will not even begin to compare. Marion Barry did a lot of things. It's sad that a lot of people in the other parts of the country don't really know that.
Yeah.
I think a lot of people just know like the meme or the gimmick of what his downfall was, but
Yeah.
he actually did do a great Amenia thing.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, that's
for sure.
That's right. Actually, before we get out of here, earlier I had made a little mention about the grifters grifting,
Oh yeah, on the left.
including Melanoma and her new book that is out here. I don't know if anybody has ever seen a memoir / coffee table book, but I think this might be the first of our time. It's got a lot of pictures, which means there's not a lot of life to write about in there. But if you bust it wide open, you can always bring it back in a coffee table book and sell it to the people.
How much is it?
It's $250, and luckily, probably because it's on sale this week, it's not $250,000 because clearly there's a $100,000 watch going around. You know, for all the people that cannot afford their eggs and their gas, they can now go and spend $100,000 on a watch, or $250 on a book that you can put on your coffee table that your kids can't open. I thought that was humorous, along with her words that she released this week.
Yeah, and unfortunately, and very strangely, because this was not on my 2024 bingo card, but I mean, half of the stuff that happened was also not. But now she is coming out in this new book that she's releasing. She is pro-choice and supports a woman's right to choose whatever that is that she thinks it is in her head. But
I'm sure her right to choose was never under attack. I'm sure it wasn't.
that is insane to me, and it gets into our topic for our straight no chaser today, which is abortion and reproductive rights in America. It has been for the past couple of years, and will be in this election coming up in November, one of the top voting issues for a lot of Americans. The polling shows that. That's not just something I made up in my head. So yeah, I just for context, I work in the reproductive rights space. I am speaking out in my personal capacity, but a lot of the abortion and reproductive rights news and the things that are going on in the States intersects my work on a daily basis. I've been doing this particular work for about 2 years now, and that's 2 years in June of 2022. As a lot of you know, the Supreme Court overturned the constitutional right for an abortion that was put in place in 1973, case of Roe versus Wade. And in June of 2022, the Supreme Court, the case in Dobbs versus Jackson Women's Health Organization, the Supreme Court ruled that it is basically up to the states to decide whether they want to permit abortion to be legal in their state. And if not, they can ban it outright. They don't necessarily need to have any exceptions, restriction, or whatever the case. Each state, now 2 years post the Dobbs decision, we have a patchwork of abortion access across the country, and I'll put in a map. It looks like a quilt. There is a 6-week ban here, 12-week ban here, no ban here. You can only get an abortion if you were raped or your life is in danger here. When you cross the line into another state, it's a completely different environment and legality for abortion, and it's very crazy. And pregnant people are dying because they cannot get the care that they need on a timely basis in their communities and in a manner in which they can exercise full personal bodily autonomy. And it's very depressing, but this is the work I do every day. So I'm very used to the lows and the highs and the wins that we have seen over the past 2 years. There have been some, but there's been a lot of just horrible news. And I think that's what a lot of voters are thinking about when they're going to be going into the voting booths in November, and as they should. It's okay to be a single issue voter, and it's okay that single issue is abortion and reproductive freedom, which it is for me. So just a couple of tidbits about where we stand in access to abortion throughout the United States. Currently, 21 states ban abortion outright or severely restricted. And it was 22 states. Most recently, a judge in North Dakota ruled that their ban that had gone into effect right after the Dobbs decision, the judge said that was unconstitutional, and I'm sure there's going to be an appeal at some point. But for now, abortion is legal up until fetal viability, which is the standard that was set in Roe. Abortion is legal, but all of the abortion providers, which, in North Dakota, there were only a couple, all of the abortion providers outside of the traditional hospital system, which usually you don't go to for a standard abortion procedure unless you are in a situation that's an emergency, there are no abortion providers in North Dakota. So even though now access is, in theory, legal, it's inaccessible. So it's not available there. Currently, 13 states have a total ban on abortion. That means that some of the states have exceptions. All the states have quote-unquote exceptions for the life of the mother, which essentially exceptions, especially for the life of the mother, don't work. Exceptions are just something that is written just to appease the most.
It sounds good.
It sounds
good, but it's not. It's not.
Doctors are terrified to perform any type of procedure that may be interpreted by some very extreme lawmakers as an abortion. So with that being the case, a lot of women who are presenting themselves to emergency rooms are not getting care, even though it's quote unquote legal under the exceptions. Some states out of that 13 do have exceptions for rape and incest, but again, exceptions do not work. A lot of the exceptions for quote unquote rape and incest are accompanied with a bunch of stipulations that you have to go through the law enforcement process. You have to report it. You have to go on record. There has to be a police report. There's an investigation. And especially when you're dealing with any rape survivor that is not a situation that you want to put them through. But if it's even a child, someone who is a minor, it's like you want them to relive some of those most painful and traumatic moments just because you need to make sure that you didn't make this up. It's ridiculous. It's maddening.
It's draconian.
That is where we are. There are currently, there were, prior to maybe a week and a half ago, there were 4 states that had a 6-week ban. One of those states was Georgia, and recently we heard reporting out of Georgia for 2 that we know of, 2 Black women who were also mothers to the children that they were already parenting. They both lost their lives in the months following the Dobbs decision. And after the Dobbs decision, the state of Georgia instituted a 6-week abortion ban. And their names are Amber Nicole Thurman and Candy Miller. And if Georgia did not put in a 6-week abortion ban, it's very likely that
they would still be alive. It wouldn't have. It's not really a very likely. It's definitely a would have.
And those are cases that happened, right? And they're just not getting reporting because of the way that the investigation system in Georgia and many other states, they're backed up with their processing of cases of maternal mortality. It's just sad because these were mothers, these were daughters, these were sisters and best friends, and it's heartbreaking. And all of us really had a very difficult time just holding the severity of what is going on. It's like we all lived in Georgia.
It pissed me off.
We went to school in Georgia. A lot of us,
It pissed me off very much so.
Yeah.
Very much.
But now a Fulton County Superior Court judge recently ruled that the 6-week abortion ban in Georgia was unconstitutional, and it is currently being stayed, which means that it is on hold. The ruling has been appealed by the Georgia Attorney General. It was appealed to the Georgia Supreme Court. The same Georgia Supreme Court that upheld the 6-week abortion ban back in 2022. Currently, providers are delivering abortion care beyond 6 weeks, but they don't know how long they're going to be able to do that. It's going to be all of a sudden a judge on the Supreme Court might issue an injunction, and all of a sudden care stops. And you might have an appointment for next week, and you're not going to be able to get your appointment in Georgia. That's where we are. The uncertainty.
That's where we've been.
This is not the first time this has happened in Georgia, specifically with this specific 6-week ban. This is not the first time that this has happened. We were thinking about the people in Georgia who need this care and who are able to get it now, and we're grateful for that. But we know that this is not the end of that fight. There are so many things that are in the works in the states to try to restore access to comprehensive reproductive health care. And in November, a lot of states have abortion ballot initiatives that will be put to voters, and you can vote for your support directly of abortion access and rights within the state. And a couple of those states, Florida has a 6-week ban currently. If their abortion amendment passes, then it will return to, you'll be able to access abortion up to viability. What I mean when I say viability, so in the case of Roe versus Wade, the Supreme Court decided that it was kind of an arbitrary mark in a pregnancy, but the Supreme Court interpreted it as the point in which a fetus couldn't survive outside of the mother's womb. And so they were basically viable if they were to give birth after this certain benchmark, and that was about 22, 24 weeks. That, of course, has always been the attack of the anti-abortion movement. It's not based in science. You're just making shit up, basically. And what they really tried to do is compromise and meet in the middle, but Roe was never enough. It was never founded on very concrete legal principle. So, of course, it was destined to fall at some point.
I personally think that one of the biggest failings that we've had over the course of American history throughout different parts is that quite often we find ourselves when we're at a crossroads of what is right and what has been done. For some reason, we feel the need to appease the people who have been doing wrong stuff in order to make them feel better about what we're about to do and dumb down the things that need to be done. I just personally feel like that, and it's exhausting.
Yeah. So viability is the Roe standard. So if you hear someone say, return to Roe, which is what a lot of the Democrats are saying, and they're going to have to get over the fact that Roe is dead. Roe is not,
as
it
a
was
basic,
never enough. And it will never be enough. And why are we trying to return to something that currently doesn't exist? If the Supreme Court overturned it,
I think part of it was that
going back to a framework that was already struck down. We need to start to think about this issue of reproductive freedom, bodily autonomy as just that. It is what someone wants to do with their body, and that's what they should do.
That's going to be hard to accomplish.
And
I only say that because
have some real deep conversations about the things that they hold dear.
I just think that when it comes to that, unfortunately, the type of society that we're in, there's a subset of people who feel like there needs to be something punitive done. Like no matter what the issue is, it's like, oh, you can't do that without having to be responsible for this, or somebody's got to pay for you being able to have this thing. And I think that that's a very unfortunate thing that has just gone through a lot of different facets of our society, which has really reared its ugly head. As like we talked about the death penalty last week, but even when it comes to reproductive rights, you have people who will say things like, I think people should be able to get abortions, but I think there should be some kind of accountability. Like you shouldn't be able to get them whenever.
Yeah. My response to that is, and I think this is what kind of drew me into Tim Walz before he was Kamala's pick for vice president, is when he said, the first time I heard him on probably MSNBC talking about abortion and saying, mind your own damn business.
That part.
Because, yes, you can have religious convictions and you can be against abortion for yourself.
Everybody ain't your religion. That's the first thing. And even people within your religion don't have a monolithic view.
Exactly. And just the fact that people feel the audacity and the privilege to insert themselves and be in a space of holier than thou to tell you what you should do with your body. It's always been the most insane part about it. But the fact that someone like Tim Walz, looking how he looks, with his flannel shirt on, with his camo hat, doing all of the things that he seems like a very thoughtful, thorough politician. And to say that mind your own damn business, you can have that conversation within the people in your circle that you value most. But that should not be a whole conversation for the rest of the country to tell you what to do with your body. And that's just where it is with it. So in terms of ballot initiatives, voters in Florida, Missouri, Maryland, New York, South Dakota, Arizona, Nevada, Colorado, Nebraska, and Montana have the opportunity to vote directly for abortion access in November. So if you're not registered to vote in those states and you think that abortion should be accessible.
And even if you don't, honestly, that's really not your decision for other people. And I think that what we need to be focusing on is that people deserve to have access to all types of civil rights, whether that's the ability to be able to learn, that's the ability to be able to go into public spaces, whether that's the ability to be able to make autonomous choices over your body and over your family, and specifically your body. There's certain things that comes to like family deciding that might not be just all up to you.
Right.
But at least in this instance, I just think that when it comes to the carrying of another life, then having to bring that life to actual life and rear them up and be responsible for the type of human that they turn out to be, I do think that there should be a lot more autonomy within that, as well as the people who are already here. Mm-hmm. Sometimes we have to do the things that make the most sense. And these are not like hot button issues that I feel. I feel that they are medical procedures that people should mind their business about. Because if you go and get a penile implant, I'm not in your doctor's office to figure that out. Maybe God wanted you to stop having kids at a certain point in time. That's why your penis doesn't work. But look at Viagra and all the other things letting you be out here do stuff until you're damn 100. So I'm just saying,
You know, you need all of this consent to get stuff. You need a prescription for birth control, blah, blah, blah. But
the sad part is
Like a woman's body, though.
exactly, because if you don't need, now you don't even need a prescriber. You could just get it off the TV.
I can order you some Blue Chew because I see them commercials all day. I don't even know who owns that, but I'm tired.
But I think it was Wanda Sykes, and it's like, you should have to go into the doctor's office with a signed affidavit of some woman. You should, you know, because if you can't produce that, sir, you don't need this Viagra.
You don't.
Well, I mean, it's just really unfortunate. Like, I think that the whole controlling of women's uteruses is the same thing well, I mean, it's the same reason why you want to demonize the hell out of everybody else to make you be able to control who can be here, who can be not, where you think they should be able to be allowed access in life and all of those things, which I totally disagree with. But just overall, the conversation of reproductive rights is one that we need to have. I understand that part of American cultural society is not discussing things like politics or abortion or race or even money in the groups, but that was only put in place by people who wanted to control you so that way you couldn't talk to other people about the things that you guys were experiencing or the things that you may have had in common or things that were grievances that you may both share or didn't know that you had because you didn't have access to all that information.
But yeah, so in terms of public support for
I was going to say, I thought we were talking about personal support. I was like, I'm pro-abortion all the way through. Whenever you need it or however you need it, do what's best for you.
So public support for abortion is at its all-time high post the Dobbs decision. Currently, I think polling has it at about 63% of all Americans, and that includes Americans of all religions, Protestants, Catholics, what have you. 63% of Americans believe that abortion should be legal in all or most cases. About 36% believe it should be illegal in all or most cases. Most of those are of that breakdown demographic are conservative Republicans, and a lot of those within that are white evangelical Christians.
We have to stop letting fringe groups take over.
In terms of white evangelical support for the conservative party, a lot of people think that it was born out of the Roe versus Wade decision in 1973. It was not. It was a direct response to desegregation efforts within the schools that took place after the Brown versus Board of Education decision in 1954. And white people in the South were pissed. This is my favorite thing to talk about.
Interracial marriage, too. They were like, oh, no.
Very specifically desegregating schools, because what they did after that is they made their own segregation academies, and they were still getting tax subsidies even though they were discriminating and they were breaking the law. And then the IRS was like, no, you can't do that. And they were really pissed about that. It was actually Nixon that put in the effort for the IRS to do that, but they were pissed at Jimmy Carter, and that's how we got Reagan. But back to always the big ass elephant in the room is always racism.
It always boils down to racism.
We are,
It's as American as amplified.
So,
well, it's how America was built as well as the Western Hemisphere. Because there were people that were here before them, and they weren't Christians. So that is not the original religion of this region of land.
If anyone tries to tell you that the Christian right or the religious right movement was built out of abortion, it was not. It was a wedge issue, and they're continuing to push that wedge, and they don't care about it.
I mean, the irony is if you had enough, if you cared about pro-life,
penalty. Case in point, our conversation last.
Well, you didn't have a problem working people to death or hanging people to death because they stepped out of line or practicing on women's bodies until they died. Like, none of those things were egregious things, is what I'm saying.
And in terms of reproductive justice, which is a framework that was coined by a group of 12 Black women 30 years ago. It's the anniversary of the reproductive justice framework. It was created in 1994, and basically a group of Black women came together to discuss President Clinton at the time, his stance on how abortion should be safe, legal, and rare, which is a lot of the rhetoric that was happening in the 90s and early 2000s as it concerns abortion. And that policy agenda was not in line with the realities that Black women were facing in America because of the systemic racism that we have been suffering since slavery. Our systems have been built and are continuing to be built against us and against our progress. But in 1994, the reproductive justice framework was coined in opposition also to the mainstream reproductive rights movement because it wasn't including Black experiences within their push for abortion access and access to contraception. The reproductive justice framework encompasses 4 main tenets, the most holistic being the right to bodily autonomy, because that is core to the ability to live a free life and to live the American dream in the way that you want to do it. The right to have a child, the right to not have a child, and the right to parent that child in a safe and sustainable community. And within the reproductive justice framework encompasses all of the issues that are of concern to Americans and voters today, and that includes the economy, the public safety. You can't parent a child in a safe and sustainable community if the police are
The community ain't safe.
killing your our Black children. If you don't have a livable minimum wage, or if you don't have the benefits of health insurance, that you cannot parent the children that you have. So all of these, child
care is out of this world.
Top of the list. Those are all reproductive justice.
I lose sleep at night right now.
And so this election in 2024, and as it has been in the past, but this election is very much so a reproductive justice election. There is so much at stake, not just for our personal freedoms, but the way that we're able to conduct our everyday lives and do the things that we want. Some of us do want to have children. We want to be able to bring children into the world in a safe environment, but we don't want to risk death to do it. And the maternal mortality rate, especially for Black women, is disproportionately higher than that of non-Hispanic white women in states where there are abortion bans on reproductive care. We already see Amber and Candy's stories. There are stories across the country of women being denied access to emergency care for wanted pregnancies. It doesn't matter that they were wanted, but it matters the fact that they are being turned away for care that would not have even been a second thought.
Care that should have been given to them because it's deserved and it's a medical
You don't have to
care that they needed.
You don't have to look far to see the stories, and they're heartbreaking. But I would implore anyone who has not, especially for men, especially my Black men, like, if you don't think that reproductive justice or abortion is a issue for you, you're sadly mistaken.
I mean, I don't know no Black women or no women, period, that had an abortion that wasn't involving a man as well.
And I wish
it's
you
what
would
I'm
think
saying.
about that. I wish you would
Like, I don't know what, and some maybe more than one that guy. But I'm just saying at least one.
Yeah. And so reproductive justice is very much, and abortion access and the liberties and the freedoms that have been stripped from us is very much, it's not just a women's issue. It is an issue that concerns all Americans, and in our current moment, it's really a test. And this election is a test of what country we're going to be. It's a democracy for real, like for real, not for play.
Yeah.
For real, or
I mean, if you like voting and want to vote again, maybe you should vote for the person that wants to ensure that you're able to vote from now on.
Right. But
maybe don't vote for the person that tell you don't have to vote no more, because that probably means you won't be able to vote no more.
Because
we are in it.
2025.
If nobody's paying attention, we have been in the Handmaid's Tale.
These are facts. So it's a really good week. I'm glad that we decided to talk about this week, because I think 2 really great books if you're looking to learn more about reproductive justice and abortion access and care, and all of the dispelling the myths and really speaking truth to power. 2 authors who I really admire within the reproductive rights space came out with books this week. Jasmine and I went to a book launch for
sure did.
Gracie Sherman and Regina Mahomes have a wonderful book out called Liberating Abortion, and a writer and journalist who I really admire. And when I first started this job, like, I knew kind of the top lines about abortion, but this journalist has a Substack called Abortion Every Day, and I literally learned a lot of what I currently know, and I continue to read her Substack every morning. Jessica Valenti has a book out now, and both of those are really good, comprehensive accounts of where we stand in America and what it means to really have access to the care that we all need without stigma and in order to live our best lives.
I mean, I think it's unfortunate because a lot of people don't really talk about those things. And because of this society that we're in, a lot of times those things are very hush hush. Even if you're a person who does not feel shame around your situation, I think a lot of times it's kind of frowned upon discussing it with others because of how other people may feel, how other people may view it, what people may think about you, just a whole host of things that should not even be, to me, in your mental Rolodex of things that should be happening during the time at which you are concerned or need access to abortion. So that's just how I feel. I do wish, honestly, that as time grows, as people are talking about this more, and that might be one of the only good things that have come out of the entire reversal of Roe v. Wade, is that it actually made people pay attention to the things that have happened, the things that we have always taken for granted in our lifetime. I mean, even when Roe v. Wade was passed, pretty much for all intents and purposes, for my mother's life, where she had to be concerned, like literally not from being sexually active, but like from time of having, like, getting a period until then, you know, Roe v. Wade for the most part has been the law of the land. So it is very much so different. And it does kind of take me back to stories of people who are past my mother's generation who did not have that access, especially in more rural areas where they had to get backdoor abortions and do what they had to do in order to try to survive, try to keep their lives together for the family that they did already have, or just even to be able to build a life better for themselves or for the families that they already had, especially considering all things that have been from most rural areas, which are in the South, and probably less than the last 50 to 60 years. In Middle America, too. I just think that a lot of more segregated rural communities in the last 50, 60 years, people have really had a lot more migration, and I think that that's also played a part. You know, from women couldn't even get a daggone credit card or rent a place to live. So when I see all of these things being enacted, to me, it's not something so simple as whether or not you think this person or that person shouldn't get an abortion at this week or that week. But I understand the overall tone of what it's trying to take people back to, including not upping minimum wages, is to make people subjugated. And I'm just not with it.
And controlled. And Black women have been the most controlled demographic that, you know, even within the suffrage movement for women's rights, we were excluded. Even during the civil rights movement for Black rights, we were, I won't say excluded, but put, you know, we'll get to that later. But there were activists who were Black women, and I think Regina and Renee talk about it in Liberating Abortion, about how there was a strong presence of Black women in the push for reproductive rights, and they were, for the most
Unfortunately,
part,
kind of excluded
overlooked.
out of history.
So, yeah, exactly. And that's often what the case is. And, you know, that could, you take that all the way back to slavery, when Black women were used for basically breeders for the next generation and the repopulation of slaves and indentured servants. And then,
and I will say, not just Black women, but Black and Indigenous
and
women.
definitely Indigenous,
because first people that they enslaved were the Indigenous people, and they were like, oh, well, we need more.
So
These ones aren't that great. We need some more.
And
That's how it kind of went.
And you're just thinking about how modern gynecological and obstetrics medicine was built on the backs of Black women. They were experimented on. They were operated on with no anesthesia, all for the sake of something that we benefit from today. But it's,
I mean, there's a lot of stuff we benefit from today that we could have gone about a different way in order to get those benefits.
Absolutely.
So, you know.
And there's another good thing coming out of this. There's a whole reclamation of our autonomy and our rights as Black women in Montgomery, Alabama, where the doctor who is considered the father of modern gynecology, J. Marion Sims, There's a huge statue erected at the Capitol, I believe, for him, but a couple of blocks over from that, you can now go see a monument and a tribute, just this beautiful display.
That's wonderful.
Representing the mothers of
Gynecology.
gynecology. And I encourage everyone to go look it up. The activist who created, she's an artist, activist, and just overall really wonderful human being, Michelle Browder. She is doing some wonderful things in Montgomery to pay tribute to those mothers, gynecology, through her work with reproductive justice. So Anarcha, Lucy, and Betsy, there's a monument dedicated to them, and I want to go see it.
I do
Y'all
too.
gonna come with me?
Yeah, the irony is the first thing that it made me think about when we first discussed this as a show topic, not the first time we ever discussed this, but the first thing that it triggered in my mind was probably a thought back to Henrietta Lacks. Who's probably, you know, the closest,
And
I
that's
guess,
a more
proximity
recent of them
and time-wise.
Our
Like,
bodies,
yeah, but I mean,
experimentation.
even for a woman who went in
Women
to,
and men.
Yeah,
Let's
but
not forget about the Tuskegee Syphilis Project.
or all the things that came before, which also, I need to say this piece, I understand all the things that have happened. I understand the historical context, but people who look like me and other people who identify as African American, Black, or Afro Latino, or whatever it is, although the history in this country with healthcare and people of color has not always been great, we also have to recognize when people are trying to weaponize that to use it for us to not act within our best interest.
Yeah.
So I think people
And turn
really
us
need
against
to.
each other. I think that's what we're
Well,
seeing.
yeah. I mean, anytime somebody can try to tell you that someone with no papers, no documents has come into this country and has all of a sudden stolen your way at life or stolen your job, I'm just curious as to who the people were. I've met a few people who are here undocumented. None of them are working in jobs that even pay the $7 minimum wage. And none of them have benefits. None of them have time off. None of them even have overtime. Exactly. So I just am curious. And when I go in rural areas and I see the people who are picking things, none of them look like any of the people who have been here that are telling you that these claims are happening, or trying to tell you that you are the people these claims are happening from. But by all means, if you'd like to pick some fruit out in the hot sun or anything else for not enough money, no bathroom breaks, no cleanliness, by all means, I'm sure they're hiring in all throughout the South and Midwest. You can probably go out there and pick some corn too.
So, Jen, I know there has to be something we can do.
Well, the most obvious is don't boo, vote. So we are very excited because early voting is starting. I don't know about y'all, but my mother and father already have their ballots. And let me tell you something about that generation. They don't play about voting.
Girl.
Because they remember.
My mother grew up in the segregated South in North
Same,
Carolina,
same.
Halifax County. Shout out.
That's right, Halifax.
You know.
That's right.
But when I say them things are sealed up and ready to go, so if you are...
I'm surprised they're not going straight to the boo. Well,
No, my mom not playing, but she's just like, I'm gonna drop it off right in the ballot box myself.
I'll tell you.
Go ahead, girl, get it together. It hurt hard.
She's ready to go.
Not playing.
That reminds me of my aunt. Before she passed,
Girl, they don't play.
108, 107 during COVID, reading the pamphlet about the candidates and going with her mask and her cane. I was like, if she don't make it nowhere else, she gonna get her hair done, she gonna get her nails painted, and she gonna vote, okay? She gonna vote.
But yes, early voting is starting. So we are going to link a calendar to where early voting dates are starting around the country. But here in our local area, known as the DMV, in Virginia, you can vote now. In-person absentee voting began Friday, September 20th, 2024, to Saturday, November 2nd. In Maryland, it begins October 24th to Thursday, October 31st. And in D.C., early voting begins Monday, October 28th to Sunday, November 3rd. And everyone knows Election Day is November 5th.
AKA, y'all don't have no excuses. We gave y'all the information.
That's it. There are more than one ways to get this done. Let's get this done. Let's shut this guy up. Other ways to get involved. Oh, there's something very fun going on. Higher Heights is doing like a bus tour from New York down to DC.
I love New York, but I'm not crazy about the bus.
okay.
But I'm with it.
So on October 12th and 13th, Higher Heights will hit the road for hashtag Black Women Lead for their Get Out the Vote bus tour. Beginning in New York and ending in Maryland. Along the way, they'll make key stops in New Jersey, Pennsylvania, and Delaware, states that are all home to critical races this year.
Nice.
So if you are in New York or anywhere along the route, we want to encourage you to get on that bus and help get out the vote. As we approach election day, we know that Black women have the power to determine the outcome, as we always do.
I love Higher Heights, and that's for the work that they do. They are an organization that was founded and mobilized to get Black women in office, and that is what they have been doing for years now, and that's all. That's so much fun. I wish
No, it is. I wish I
have to drive up.
Nah, girl, that's why you gotta take the train up. So you can charge up, you can get your rest in.
Going to New York is Amtrak for me.
Yeah.
But
So,
I will say.
Oh, look at you, bougie.
like-
That is regular Amtrak for me.
if you leave at 6 a.m., it's the same price. It's not like the airport. You don't have to get up all early. You literally
roll up there, however.
I was confused. I was like, "Where's the security?"
First of all,
Just roll your back right on.
first of all, you know,
It's not the most secure method of transportation.
I do some of my
looks
best
unsavory.
makeup on planes, trains, and automobiles on my way to get places. Okay, I roll up with the bonnet and the regulars, maybe a hoodie, but by the time I show up, I pop out. That's all I'm saying. I pop out.
Moving.
She popping out of there.
I'm telling you, I've gotten on looking like the struggle and gotten off look like the dream and success of the ancestors. Just understand. I got two modes, sweats and heels.
That's
either or.
So yes,
That's right.
Please pay attention to early voting dates in your state. We will have a calendar linked, and then if you are in our, regional Northeast area, and you can get on that bus and help get out the vote, please do so.
Yeah, and if you can't get on the bus, least you can do is follow along with where they're going and maybe show up where they are if it's in your community. You ain't got to ride it. Just show up and get involved.
And there will be more events as we are getting closer.
I've canvassed with them, and they have a lot of events between New York and DC. There's so many ways to get involved, and if that is not something that fits in with the geographic location that you are.
Start your own movement. Get with your people.
Or last week we mentioned that Win with Black Women Toolkit, where you can
Get that toolkit
10 friends
and get your people up.
I know some of us are introverts, so we ain't got a lot of friends.
Listen. You ain't got to talk to them in person, but I'm sure you got at least 5 to 10 people that like a photo, that you like a photo, that you play a game with, or something.
And if you're an introvert, there's postcard campaigns that you can be a part of. Phone making, texting. There's so many ways.
So much.
I mean,
if you are interested, you can go to the candidate of your choice. We're not going to tell you who to vote for, Harris, but we call it. I will.
Harris Walls. Sorry, God damn.
When you have vote to vote,
Congested.
that's between you and God. But
had to clear that up.
Go to the campaign's website who you support, and there are a lot of efforts if you are interested in what's going on in the Harris Walls campaign. They have a lot of information on their website and their social media outlets, so you can plug into them and find out what's going on and what you can do. So I'm tired. That's a lot of talking. Y'all know reproductive rights. That's my jam.
That's
so.
your jam.
I mean, I totally feel you.
I know.
I just want people to this whole religious thing.
Yeah.
I mean, I think it's a.
Y'all go watch Bad Faith. That's
Please watch Bad Faith.
We'll link it. Like,
Please.
if you're really concerned about some of the Project 2025 and the actors,
I don't call them actors. I call them the
are no
active
coincidences.
Participants and
there are
corroborators
no coincidences
and
in who
creators.
is
They're
involved.
active.
So I will just leave that there.
Not
So we gotta
actors.
sign off, okay?
That's right. We're gonna get kicked out.
I think we reached our time limit.
So, all right. Well, we will see y'all next week with another political forum. Stay thirsty, my friends.
Cheers.
Pull up a chair.
Y'all, we got some theme music coming in. It's gonna be lit.
Shit, it might be on this one.
Pull up a chair. Since the political board up.
Because we don't need a drink for this.